Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Seekamentor podcast. Today, we are going to talk about product management specific to fintech industry. So, what are the nuances of the fintech industry? How is it different from the generic product management? That is what we will be covering in today's session. But before we get started, I have a request to all the viewers. If you like this video, please like and share. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do. And also let us know in the comment section what other topics you would like us to cover in the future videos. So let's get started with today's session. We have Aisha today with us. Hey, Aisha, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Aditi. Thank you so much for the session, first of all, and also to the Seekamentor team. Very excited to have this conversation with you. Yeah. I graduated from University of Delhi and then went on to pursue MBA, partly from Symbiosis International University, which is based out of Pune, and partly from Berlin School of Economics and Law in Germany. So, funny story, how I got introduced to fintech. Basically, during one of my semesters, I had a subject where I had to really learn about the stock market, give a really nice presentation about it. And that's what really intrigued me into fintech and technology. And that's why I chose the field. Currently, I'm a founding team member at FinUp, leading the product efforts, obviously. About FinUp, it's a SME lending startup trying to simplify debt for businesses and providing lending services to the banking and non-banking sector. Yeah.
Understood. And what motivated you to get you to take the product side of things, like product management specifically, and not something else within the fintech industry?
So I was always very interested in technology, one, and I always wanted to enable every traditional industry with technology, right? And the first key product metric or the first key product skill that you need to really excel in any industry is strategic thinking. I always used to like building things from scratch and probably planning. I over plan in personal life as well. So probably that's what led me to product management. Yeah.
Understood. Understood. Okay, so now that you're working in the fintech industry, I just want to understand, like, how does working in fintech differ from other industries that you have worked in previously?
So fintech somehow is very different. To sum it up, it always keeps you on toes. The level of innovation and the ever-changing regulatory space that we have here, because there are multiple regulatory, organizations, RBI, SEBI. So there are, and plus there's money involved. So everybody is super, risk averse in this sector. And
Mm.
that's what something makes it really interesting to, go through those really difficult mazes to really solve and put a puzzle together. So that's something that really is different and really attracted me to fintech. It's basically a very and at the same time it's a very fast moving industry, right? There are new financial uh, elements or there are new financial terms coming in every other day. So you have to be very agile and you need to focus on very quick iterations and very immediate feedback loops. At the same time, yeah, the thrill of it, all of it coming together is something that is very different in fintech. Yeah.
Understood. And let's say there are certain aspiring product managers who want to build a career in the fintech industry, specifically in product management.
Yeah.
What are your suggestions? Like, how can they build these skills? How can they keep themselves up to date with respect to the regulatory and compliance side of things? And how can they be more agile and fast moving?
So, as you mentioned, it's very important for in fintech, especially to keep yourself updated with the trends that are going on in the industry. My only advice would be to really read through all the fintech, newsletters. Keep yourself updated. Read about and don't just touch upon the subjects, but go into detail because you'd never know which regulation will hit you up at which point in time in your product journey. So that's something very important. At the same time, data is the king. So you really need to focus on data analytics. You don't have to really learn Python, or you should not be the king of Python here. But at the same time, if you know the basics of it, you can really, deduce some really good inputs for your product. And yeah, being a polyglot honestly helps a lot. Speaking tech to the developers and finance to the investors or the business people can make a huge difference. Because these are very, very diverse fields, and rarely do you find a combination of these two areas of expertise coming together. And that's where really a fintech product manager needs to really, bridge the gap in both these informations, in both these two diverse verticals. Um, yeah, a fintech product manager needs to understand the complex fund transfers and the money movement, and at the same time, understand the flows. How does the money flow? How does the information flow? How does the document flow? So all these flows put together, you really need to think from a very wholesome perspective. And most definitely a lot can go wrong because there are multiple and simultaneous translations going on about different words, about there are a lot of terms in finance which a developer most definitely have not heard of, and probably product managers also come across every once in a while. But then that's our job to get everyone on the same page. So yeah, just a little bit of information. Just go deep into finance and technology. You don't have to be the really, you know, understand everything about it. But then knowing your way through it is something that will help you along the way. Yeah.
Understood. And you mentioned about technical skills. How can one develop these technical skills specific to fintech?
Enroll in a lot of courses. Data analytics, project management, everything is pretty much available on the internet these days. And after your job or while you're studying, you can simultaneously take a course. Uh, Financial regulations, keep yourself updated, read newspapers. There are a lot of good articles coming. Social media on LinkedIn, there are a lot of good articles about financial regulations, and follow these papers. Uh, Technical skills, you can still, technical meaning development skills, you can still cope up with because you learn them on the job. But these financial technical terms, you'll have to really, put an effort to really understand out of the complete day. So that's something. Technical skills, as I said, you learn on the job. I once attended some hackathon with absolutely zero coding skills. And I ended up learning Python basics from just my fellow teammates, even though we didn't win. But the experience was truly, enriching. Yeah.
Understood. And I think for a new product manager who has just joined a company, maybe they're new to fintech, maybe talking to the developers or the engineers will help them understand, what's happening.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
the tech team, I think that's the best way, at least in my opinion, in my
Yes.
experience. Just talk to the dev team, understand the architecture. That will help you a
Yeah.
long way.
Yeah.
Beyond that, yes, whatever like you mentioned about developing your tech skills via hackathons, participating hackathons, and other reading material would definitely help. Yeah.
A lot of people are afraid of the data scientists, honestly, because obviously they always have had their, technical perception and everything. But then at the same time, you learn a lot because their mind works in a very different way than your normal developers or your product managers or the people you're working in from the business point of view, right? So the terms that you learn, the use cases that come across in different conversations. So the business people will come up with different use cases, and the developers will come up from a very different angle. Then most often what happens is you put a Jira ticket together, or you put any other, PRD together, and then all the other, you think it's sacrosanct, perfectly put together. You have all the user stories, you have everything there. but then you later realize you missed out on a lot of things when developers come back. So that's the best learning point that you can really get, because you need to realize that you can't make this mistake again in the next PRD. So that's something the conversations really help. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. Um, okay. So as we were talking about like someone new who has recently joined fintech industry as a product manager, let's say,
Yeah.
what are some of the biggest challenges that they can expect to face as a PM in fintech?
Um, so one of the biggest challenges that's not just for the new people, but also for the old people is compliance. Um, Putting together all the regulatory compliances, all the laws together, and plus at the same time, figuring out if this really applies to you or not. If you need to register, or if you need to be licensed for one particular, uh, role, or your product is compliant with RBI regulations or SEBI regulations, or which one do you fit in, right?
Hmm.
So that all of these things actually do come in product, and really have to be taken care of, because then all your efforts might just go in vain in case you're not compliant. Right? That is one challenge that generally we also face currently. Any stalwart in fintech product industry would also tell you the same thing. At the same time, general product challenges that you face is a little bit of stakeholder management. You need to put together all the teams. As I said, there are multiple translations, there are multiple words, there are similar words in development and finance which completely mean different in different industries. So those are some things that you will have to cater to. And yeah, um, but you sail it through. Yeah.
So for stakeholder management, what would you suggest? What's the one thing that one or two things I can do to make sure my stakeholders are happy and everything, they're aligned with what I'm building, etc.
So I read a lot of books. So I recently read a book where it says you need to never you should never presume that the other person knows about it. So you should never think of it. You should always explain it to the other person as a 5-year-old. That's the best way you can really sail it through. There's no miscommunication. If the other person doesn't really know, then it helps them. If the person knows, then it's okay. It's another minute. But
Mm.
then, yeah, the miscommunication is one part where you can really, solve your product journey, and the stakeholder management can be done very pretty smoothly. Second, abide by your own timelines. You are the person who has to put the timelines to the project. You are the person who really has to chalk out everything, assign tasks to different people. So you need to be considerate enough, but at the same time, you need to be strict enough to really abide by the timelines, which most definitely, takes you through the project. Yeah.
Understood. And I think majority of the times people will try to, stick to the timelines, but there will be one or two times when they will not.
Yeah.
They will miss the timeline due to some unforeseen reasons. So in that scenario, what are your suggestions one can do?
So, okay, as a product manager, my 2 cents would be always keep buffer time. That's one thing while really working on developing a project. Otherwise, you should always be considerate enough. There might be 100 things that can really go wrong in developing a code, right? And at the same time, there are new regulations coming in every now and then. There might be personal things with somebody in the team. So you should always be considerate enough when it comes to really abiding by the timelines. But yes, take your buffer and then go ahead with the project.
Understood. So what are some of the common mistakes you see new product managers make, specifically in the fintech world?
So, as I said, fintech is a very rapidly changing industry, right? So either you stick to the product strategy too much, or you don't stick towards it at all. If you don't stick towards it at all, you will not run towards the newest trend, and which will probably hamper your product growth. If you stick towards it too much, you might not be abiding a lot of new regulations. you might miss out on, a very quick, very fast moving technology that is coming up. So that is one way where you need to really focus, figure out how much to be flexible, how flexible can you be as per your product roadmap. Revisit your 3 month, 6 month plans every now and then. I know companies have 6, 9, 12, 18 months of products, the complete plan ready. But I'm not sure if that's a very good idea in current market, because India is a growing space. Every now and then, as I said, there are new regulations coming in.
Hmm.
RBI is very active these days. SEBI is very active these days.
Hmm.
And yeah, so be flexible enough, be agile in such changes. And yeah, these are some of the mistakes that normally happens in fintech. Yeah.
Understood. Okay, and the last question is, so how do you incorporate user feedback into product development process, specifically fintech side?
User feedback is very, very important when it comes to our industry, especially. Um, Actually, it's important in every industry, but when it comes to our industry, it's majorly because, again, money is involved. Right? It's either equity, it's either investments, it's either debt. But anyway, the user feedback is very, very important in case. And plus, the user retention rate here is pretty lower than the other industries because uh, honestly, finance is pretty boring, right? Talking about the traditional terms, it's very boring for a lot of people,
Yeah.
right? A lot of people don't want to understand stocks. A lot of people don't want to understand how do loans work, what are the details. So you incorporating user feedback, making it really interesting. And at the same time, uh, all the apps that we have, all the user flows that we have are very important from the user's perspective because other industries, we still have, okay, for example, Instagram or LinkedIn, any of the social media platforms, they come up with, obviously, they can enforce, their features onto the user because these are pretty much simpler apps and user is really looking at it from the fun perspective. But when it comes to financial apps, you have to be very responsible enough so that the user does not take some action which is, wrong or transfers the money in a wrong manner. You can't really incorporate all the user feedback because you have to be obviously compliant and you have to be very risk averse. But at the same time, user feedback through surveys, user feedback through normal video chats is very, very important. Visiting a lot of banks and can help you. Just going to a bank, just sitting there one day, you'll understand the process that a person has to go through. So if you have to transfer some money, you will hear somebody asking a person to go to counter number 9, and do all of that. So that's the traditional feedback or the traditional way that you can learn the complete journey that you have to make. And then what is the feedback? Obviously, you can talk to the user and understand what difficulties did you face. Would you be more comfortable? So when we make user personas, we always take a older age, right? So right now also there are a lot of old age people or elders who um, think going to a bank and then transferring the money in case it's large amount is easier than doing it on the phone, right? So that's something, and they're not okay with transferring such huge amount on phone because probably they're not, very dependent on the app or very confident with the app. So that's something we need to get out of now with the financial apps and all the financial products. So yeah,
Understood. So, in a nutshell, you were saying that A, segment the customer, understand your customer, and when you're building, especially fintech products, be wary of the fact that old people would also be using it, which may not be very tech savvy.
yeah,
Really understand the physical flow of things, maybe visit a bank, understand how the process happens, and
correct.
then you can incorporate that feedback into the flows. And then user surveys and user interviews is another way. Yeah, that makes sense perfectly. Um, yeah, I think those were my questions. Anything you want to add on top of it? on top of whatever we discussed so far?
So, just a message to all the aspiring product managers. FinTech is a really interesting industry. In case you want to sit one day in the office and be all jumbled in your thoughts, and you like it, and you feel satisfied, you feel good about the jumbledness in your head, then this is the industry for you. This happens with all the product managers, but then yeah, in fintech, it's the regulatory space just adds a lot of adventure in your life. So probably just go for it, and yeah, that's all.
Perfect. Perfect. Makes sense. So the field is for people who like a lot of
Adventure.
chaos
Yeah,
and a lot
who
of mess.
find calmness in chaos. Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. I think this was a great session. At least I learned a lot about the fintech industry. I hadn't, um, I don't have much experience in the field. So thank you so much for your time. It was a great conversation, and I'm sure our viewers would also have learned a lot from this.
Sure. Thank you so much. It was great having the
Yeah.
conversation. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.